Hi, book lover. Welcome to Maktaba Digitali, your library, our library. It's all about fun in the reading culture. We are seats accredited and corporate certified. My name is MD Njiru, the artist. So today in the show, we have a special guest. She is a friend and an avid book reader. Anytime I ask her which book she's reading, what's her current book, she always has a new title. So she will introduce herself and tell us what she does and give us more insight on her reading journey and her reading habits. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Njiru. Thank you. I truly appreciate
Welcome.
being here. My name is Nyambura Mbogwa. I am a human resource professional, currently working as a human resource manager in one small company within Kenya. I love reading everything. I read everything. I don't have
Okay.
anything specific, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Nyambura, and once again, welcome. So the first question is, Nyambura, when did you start developing that reading habit? When was it,
Um,
and how did you develop that reading habit?
I think it came at a point where I was really not busy. my
Okay.
my lifestyle was not busy. It was just being in campus, go home, being in high school, and there's not much to do.
Okay.
And so I found the only avenue that I would use or to excite myself when I'm traveling for long journeys, it happened to be books. So that kept me company for a very, very long time. I would read a book a day, a whole book
Hmm.
a day, because campus life was not busy, especially what we did in campus. It wasn't that busy, so we happened to do much of reading rather than reading in class. So that is how I developed my reading passion. I can say it's a journey I'm proud of. Even if life gets busy sometime, at least you find time to read one or two books somewhere.
Yeah, glad to hear that. Now that you developed your reading habit or your reading lifestyle, because at that point you are not very busy, and now I'm sure you are more busy and plus adult life and all that. So how do you how do you juggle reading and the busy schedules and all that?
Number one, everything is discipline.
Okay.
You can say that life has become too busy. You do not have 2 or 3 hours to waste. So, how number one I manage, I leave my house at 6, mostly at 6 a.m. And taking a matatu from where I live to workplace, there is a bit of traffic. So throughout that journey, it happens to be most of the time I'm reading a book in that gap between my house and office. When I get to the office, most of the time I get to the office at around 7:30. So there is 7:30 to 8. There is also like a 30 minutes there that I used to read. In the evening also it happens that when I'm coming back home, there's a bit of traffic. So or I use actually most of my time when I'm using public means, I happen to be on my phone, and because most of my books are also soft copies, so I happen to be on my phone. And now because also I live alone, when I get to the house, I'm not a movie person most of the time. So after I shower and I'm waiting for at least time to move to 9:10 for me to sleep, I also use that to read a book. So I always find somewhere where I can slot in 3 pages, 4 pages within a day.
I get you. I want to ask hizo mati ni za wapi, but I'm sure sio mati za Ronga. You know, watu wa Ronga they can't read kwa mat. Yeah, the music is too loud. You can't read in the mat. Hmm?
Thank God, si za huko.
Uh,
Thank God.
yeah. So
Um,
other than finding that time, which is a creative way of capitalizing on time, like if you are traveling to work to and fro, you capitalize on that time. If you are waiting for someone, maybe you read, which is a good way. Other than that, do you have like a scheduled time?
Um, not quite, not quite. I wouldn't say I have scheduled time, but I have purposed a day I must use 2 hours in a
Hmm.
book.
Okay.
That is my cut line. That not less than 2 hours. If I'm sleeping in a mat, I have to recover that 2 hours somewhere. So I can say I have a schedule from this time from to this time I'm studying. I'm reading, but 2 hours in a day goes to my books mostly.
Oh, that's awesome. I envy you. 2 hours. Yeah, that's a lot. Iko poa hiyo. And what's your current read?
Ha. Let me tell you, I'm doing two books at a time.
Hmm?
And actually, one of it, you're the one who sent me, The Power of a Praying Woman. And I had also sent you a book some time back that I was doing. It's quite a huge book, a very old book. Uh, Very old. When I say very old, it's very old.
Uh,
I took it from home. It's
okay.
called Wild Aflame. So I'm
Okay.
doing this book.
Okay.
I'm also doing The Power of a Praying Woman.
Okay.
So that is what I'm doing. At home, I do this. In the vehicle, I do the other one.
Okay. Okay. Speaking of the Power of a Praying Woman, it's a book that has been highly recommended by many people, especially to ladies. So far up to where you have reached, do you have some takeaways that you can share with our audience?
Yes, I'll go from the start. It is very easy for you. It's a Christian book. It's a Christian book guiding a woman how to pray, with a background of a Christian woman who has learned. Actually, for her, it's more of an autobiography of how she has created her praying habits and still being connected to God, even among the very busy schedule, and not forgetting, not focusing on the minor, that is things like writing a book and you forget the major thing, that is the relationship with God.
Okay.
So looking from that perspective, she tries to draw a line that you're able to fix yourself
Mhm.
in a very good relationship with God,
Okay.
as still you push other things, the other purpose that He has given you to, in this world,
Okay.
or rather to do in this world.
Okay.
So that is, in a nutshell, that is what I would say up to where I am.
Okay.
She says at one point she got so busy with writing books, training people, and by the time she was realizing, she was not at a prayer place, she was not at a place where she really was depending on God. She had kind of outsmarted herself over God.
Mm.
So it became bad. So
Mhm.
she's trying to tell a woman, you can still be busy
Mhm.
and still work and still have a working relationship with God.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So, for any lady out there, if you haven't read The Power of a Praying Woman, yeah, you go to PDF and you can download the book from there. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Nyambura, which books have really impacted you? And when you answer that question, combine it with how these books have impacted you.
Ah, there are so many. There are so many.
Okay.
Wow, 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 wow. There's so many. Which one really impacted me? Well, I think, let me start with my current book. This one, The World Frame. Um, it talks from a perspective of Christianity.
Hmm.
I think I fall more on Christian books
Okay.
rather than any other book. You have to forgive me. Um, this
There's nothing to be forgiven about that.
this book has a way of opening your eyes, to not just view things as they are. There is a particular chapter that talks about politics and how they are affected, spiritually. So you would look at everything. It changed my perspective of how I would see politics in Kenya. I
Okay.
was one of those people who would say,
Mhm.
siasa. Siasa acha tuachie wanasiasa. But in looking at it, it comes from the outburst or the outflow of something
Sure.
that leaders you're given comes from exactly the kind of a person you are.
True.
And so that changed my whole perspective of viewing things. I've also done another book. Gosh, why am I? By Rebecca Brown. I remember the name of the book later. It's a book about the the kingdom of darkness. It's a very scary book. I read it and I didn't go out of my house for quite some time at night.
Huh?
That particular book opens to you a perspective.
Kwani, is it based on Revelation? When I read the book of Revelation, that's when I get scared. The rapture and all
Yeah,
that.
it's actually not quite the book of Revelation. It comes from a person who has been in the other side of the world, the devil worshipping, and how they do
Ah,
the cults, the charming, how they do their sacrifices.
wow.
And that really opened, that was an eye opener for me because there are things that could happen and you take them literally, whereas there are forces behind them that are causing things to happen. And so many other books that I have done. So you don't view things literally, you
Okay.
have to have a deeper meaning.
Okay.
And also, it gives you exposure on what to expect if you're walking the similar path that that person has walked before, or you're hoping to walk in such a path. Yeah.
Yeah, I get you. Between books and movies,
Mhm.
which one do you prefer? Like, which one do you feel they do justice to? Between a book and a movie, which one do you feel does justice to a story?
A book all the way.
Ah.
A book all the way because through the book you're able to create the visuals, you see the visuals, you hear the voices, and then you understand what the content is all about. And for the movie, they have already given you the content, they have already given you the visual. You're not thinking, you're just there watching, you're
The
not really thinking.
the soundtrack is already provided.
Exactly. Na kama you went to some schools like us, sometimes kizungu inakupita.
Yeah. Uh,
So for me, book always.
mm. No wonder that book you mentioned, The Kingdom of Darkness, ilikufanya feel scared. Yeah.
Yes. And Makia had watched the movie
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
I think I had watched the two movies before because at that season I did two book consequently, like nilifanya vitabu mbili at the same time.
Mhm.
I had watched the two movies and I didn't get scared as when I read the book.
Mhm.
So yeah, the book was something else.
Oh, okay. Still related to that previous question that I asked, which books have called you into action? Okay, let me bring this question into context, into a better perspective. I found myself in the past, like there was a time that, and congrats, you have mentioned that there was a time you were reading a book a day. Congrats. So I found myself in the past, there was a time I was reading so much, so many books. I was reading books back to back. Then I realized that I was like consuming but not implementing. Yeah. So nowadays when I read, I try to be more intentional. Like I study this book and try as much as possible to implement maybe one or two things from that book. So, which books have called you into action?
Wow, there are quite a number. Let me start from my career side.
Okay.
I said I'm a human resource manager,
Okay.
and there is a book called, it's just like a small book, a very tiny book actually, called Master Your HR Skills.
Okay.
I think it's a 120-page book or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. A
Mm-hmm.
very small book.
Mm-hmm.
That book clearly describes the kind of a person you ought to be if you're going to be handling people, from your interpersonal skills to
Sure.
your how you behave to how you respond to other. Like it covers everything, and how you keep sharpening left behind.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry, I call was coming in.
Okay.
That book called me to action. That I read it the first time because it had just been given to me. I read it the first time and I had to read it again while taking notes,
Mm.
because I thought what I need is actually in this book, and I can say that book really changed the perspective I used to view human resource. Because if you compare what you're taught in school and what you come to apply in real life, they are two different things.
Sure.
The book number two is uh, the garbage truck. It's called the garbage truck.
Mm-hmm.
The garbage truck is more of garbage in, garbage out.
Okay.
Also, it's more of sharpening your skills
Mm-hmm.
and sharpening the viewership of life in general.
Okay.
It calls you to a place where, if this is what you're doing, be sure a turnaround of it is what will come to you. And it called me to an action that I have to be very careful. It talks even how you respond to nature. If you respond to nature negatively, it also responds to you negatively.
Mm-hmm.
So it called me to be very careful on small things that before I wouldn't have really paid attention to.
Okay.
And my last book is by my pastor. It's called The Value of a Woman's Worth
Uh-huh.
by Pastor Tim Wangi.
Uh-huh.
It's I have read this book, I think, 3 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
3 4 times since I bought it. It's not an old book. It's talk about who a woman is and how you ought to be treated as a woman. I must acknowledge at one point I had very low self-esteem,
Okay.
and so it needed a boost. I didn't go for any therapy, but I needed a boost of how you view yourself. When I found this book on the shelf, I think I was just coming out of that season, and it really helped me to affirm myself that I'm not what I thought I was, but I'm better than that. Yeah, that is what books have done for me.
Wow, wow, that's amazing. Where can people find that book by Mr. T?
By Mr.
By Pastor T.
by Pastor Tim
Yeah,
Wangi.
Pastor T
They can
Monge.
Yes, they can find it if you go to his Facebook page. He's called Pastor Tim Wangi on Facebook. Also, we have a church in Limuru, Life Church International
Okay.
in Limuru, just behind Naivas. You can also find it there. Also, if somebody reaches me out, reach you to reach me, they
Okay.
can also get the book. I can be able to help you get the book.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that insight. Okay. So the next question is it's based on something that I read on Twitter, whereby the the person said that stop reading self-help books, start writing self-help books. And I was like, well, I've been consuming so many books. And I'm like, okay, what if I was to write, what can I write about? So I posed this question to you
Hmm.
because I know you're an avid reader.
Hmm.
If you were to write book, if you were to write books, which books or what three aspects would you write about?
Wow, wow. Never thought about writing, but if I was to write a book, what would I write about? Number one, I would write a book about how God is great, or rather how God has helped me walk through a journey.
Uh-huh.
Number two, I would write a book in the line of my career,
Uh-huh.
that is to correct a few mistakes that I see in human resource.
Mm-hmm.
You see, the human resource has the human, but you find most of the time in the boardrooms we forget about the human and we use the resources.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I would also address.
Mm-hmm.
And number three, I would write about nature
Mm-hmm.
because nature is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Nature is amazing. So those are the three aspects I would do.
Mm. All the best. I hope you can actually implement. You can actually implement that.
You can see about that.
Yeah.
Let's
Uh,
see how life.
Speaking of writing a book about HR, maybe you can give us in your book, in your future book, you can give us insights on what happens when the HR panel tells someone, "We shall get back to you."
Mhm.
Maybe someone can write a book. You are in a better place because you are in the HR profession. Someone can tell us what usually happens. What's the discussion after the HR panel tells you, "We shall get back to you." So that can be a great book.
Number one, when the HR profession tells you
I,
the
I'm already giving you tips on how to write a book, on how to write that particular book.
it is in two aspects. Um, we'll get back to you. Number one, I have to correct a mistake that human resource managers do. They don't get back. That is so rude, and that is the removing the human in the human resource.
Okay.
Um, but you asked what happens when we tell you we get back to you. We have to review your CV again
Okay.
and then weigh how you responded the question.
Okay.
Of course, it depends on the kind of an interview that was. Was
Mhm.
it structured, unstructured?
Mm.
What position were you interviewing at? And
Mm.
all such kind of things.
Mm.
So
Mm.
after we review those things and rate you,
Mm.
there are interviews that we rate within the interview. There are those that we rate after you have left.
Mm.
So depending on how you scored,
Mm.
uh, the human resource is supposed to respond whether successful
Mhm.
or not.
Mhm.
Not responding for me is very rude,
Mhm.
extremely rude,
Yeah.
because you put somebody in a stressful position
Mm.
where they're not able to understand, did I pass, did I fail, did I perform? And so you need to give feedback, and feedback should have a justification. If that person failed because they were not eloquent enough, or
Mm.
their dress code was not good enough, or they didn't respond the question the way it was supposed to be responded, or their attitude was wrong,
Mm.
it's good to give feedback, but in a kind way. Don't tell
Mm.
somebody your attitude was not right. Did you have an attitude meter to measure? Yeah,
uh,
so
uh-huh.
it's good to give feedback. So after I will talk to you, we
Mm.
review CVs and then we give feedback,
Mm.
whether positive or negative.
Mm. Yeah. All the best as you put a human face to the HR. Let me divert kidogo. There are these interviews that are usually they are like stage managed. You know,
Mhm.
they they already know who is supposed to be picked. They know so and so has been recommended by so and so, but they end up calling so many people for the interview. I don't know, just like it's more of a show. Then at the end of the day, you find that they like 25 candidates have been interviewed, but will be only three or one or sometimes two will be picked. So what's the essence of that? If already the HR or the HR team knows so and so is supposed to pick this job.
That is where I said that is removing humanity into the human resource.
Yeah.
Because number one, if you already have a candidate, you're doing it for formality, which
Yeah.
is not right, because somebody have paid transport,
Yeah.
others have asked for permission from their workplace,
Yeah.
somebody probably had to leave their kids somewhere.
Hmm.
So that is not correct. And also, if they don't have a candidate
Hmm.
and they are calling 20 people, that means that human resource department, the recruitment department, has a problem.
Hmm.
Because by you just reviewing a CV,
mm,
a well written CV,
mm,
at most seven people, at most
mhm,
seven people well with well defined job description,
mm,
well defined workflows,
mm,
you should be able to tell this is the right candidate,
mm,
this is not the correct candidate,
mm,
this is the right. And if all of them, the 25,
mm,
you think they could be,
mm,
there is a step we go and do a tele interview.
mhm,
When you do a tele interview, you're
mm,
able to weigh among these 25,
mm,
I can only pick the
mm,
seven to come for a physical
mm,
or for a Zoom interview.
mm,
But you don't have to call 25 people, honestly,
mhm,
for one position or
mm,
two position.
mhm,
At most, actually, I usually say three people,
mm,
three best candidates for you in a CV
mm,
are actually enough. You choose number one, number two, and number three. That's it.
mm. Yeah, thank you for that insight. One more question regarding that before we go back to books. Are the referees actually called? The
Yes,
referee,
yes,
yeah,
yes. We call them.
okay.
We call, especially, we call your immediate employer. For me, from where I stand, we call your immediate employer, whether you're employed or where you recently came from. That is where we first call. Number two, we call if you have indicated for us a different job, probably if we are interviewing for an accountant, and initially you have done administration at a particular office, we would also call that 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 particular place to weigh your skill. Are you multi-skilled?
Hmm.
Are you just one skill? Did you lie in your CV? Because this is Kenya anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we call. We call.
Are there instances where a candidate has passed the interview and the only thing that fails them or disqualifies them is the feedback from the referee?
Yes. For example, I'll give an example. There's a time I did an interview for an
Hmm.
accounting position,
Hmm.
and the lady was successful. We did a first and second interview because there were different panels attending, and the third stage was calling the former boss, whom they had not put as referees but had indicated the company. So we went to the website, found the company, and called the company. And apparently, when we asked how did she leave the organization,
Hmm.
and we found that she had a long hand and she had picked up few things from the office.
Uh,
So at that point, you cannot hire such a person.
uh,
Yes.
well, yeah, it's quite unfortunate. It's quite
Yeah.
unfortunate. Mm,
Yeah, but you
mm,
need to tell somebody why
mm,
they have failed,
mm,
so you don't find yourself in the other side of law.
uh,
There's something we call disturbance and damages.
okay.
You need to give feedback at all times.
Uh, in your conversation, I've remembered over time I went for an interview and I really sold myself extremely. And then one person in the panel was like, "If you are really, if you are really good as you have said, where did the company let you go?" Wow, that one I didn't have a comeback. Okay, I tried to explain about the company was experiencing financial problems and all that, but that one caught me off guard. Okay, so
At least,
pardon.
sorry.
Okay, so as we wind up, I would like you to recommend books to people who are starting their careers from a HR perspective, and after that, also recommend books from a HR perspective for people who are trying to grow their careers. And also, maybe I will add this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Sometimes promotions and career growth is not all about the skills and and the competence. Sometimes it has to do with office politics and how someone can maneuver around. So go ahead.
Okay. I didn't quite get the last question.
The last question is books you can recommend for people who want to grow their career. And when answering that question, I think it's good to state that, or to bear in mind that sometimes promotions in some workplaces, they usually don't go to the most qualified person or to the most competent person. It also depends on how you play your office politics. Like, let me divert kidogo and explain something. I was watching a certain clip, and they were saying that in the Navy SEAL, when they are sending these people to missions and all that, sometimes they don't pick the best soldiers. They they may pick an average soldier, but that soldier they know is loyal, something of that sort. So I think also the same perspective applies in the workplace. Is that clear?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Number one, for any human resource manager or aspiring human resource officer manager, HR, let me call them HR. You have to do master your skills, master your HR skills. Number two, anything on training, anything on personal interpersonal skills, that is something for you to pick and run with it, because you will always be dealing with people, and people have different personality. So anything that sharpens your skills, go for it as a human resource manager
Mm-hmm.
or human resource
Okay.
officer or HR in general.
Mm.
Number two, on the question on promotion,
Yeah.
I beg to differ a bit.
Mm.
I beg to differ a
Okay.
bit. Sometimes it
Okay.
depends with the organization
Okay.
and the structures and
Yeah.
the management.
Okay.
Promotion in different organizations occur based on what culture is there in the organization.
Yeah.
Some organization, I've worked in organization whereby it's the boss who point at that person and say you're promoted.
Mm.
And some organization, they are very professional,
Mm.
and so at that point
Mm.
they use performance, interpersonal skills. It's an all round evaluation and monitoring
Mm.
that you really qualified.
Mm.
And in others, it depends how best you talk to the HR.
Mm-hmm.
That is the culture that is there.
Mm.
So for me, I would say mostly promotion comes because of the culture that is there in the organization.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. So as we wind up the final question.
Can't hear you.
Oh, as we wind up the final question, which books are on your bucket list? And any final remarks as we wind up on that?
There are so many. There are so many.
Okay.
Gosh, there's so many.
Mm.
Which one do I have? Gosh, I finally got one of the books that I was looking for is this Wilder Frame. I had I had read it somewhere.
Mm.
I still wanna go back to. There is something called. I ever saw it in the bookshop,
Mm.
but they were selling it very expensive. It's called
Okay.
10,000 reasons of life or living,
Uh,
something like that. It's
okay.
quite a huge book,
Okay.
this size.
Okay.
So that is a book that I would want to read.
Okay.
And any other, by the way, I don't choose books.
Okay.
Any book I find, I go
Mm.
with it.
Mm.
Yeah, and becoming a world class Christian. I really want that book.
Ah, okay.
Becoming a world class Christian.
Okay.
Yeah, I think those two.
Okay.
Mm. And any other remarks? Thank you so much
Okay.
for honoring me to come here.
Okay.
I truly appreciate, and I hope we can do this some other time.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming, Nyambura. Yeah, it was a pleasure. Remind the audience to like, to subscribe, and to share the videos in the channel.
Okay, dear viewer, please like, comment, share the content in this channel. Mr. Njiru is doing such an amazing job. So kindly like, share, comment, and comment again and comment again. Yes, am I allowed to share my pages here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you can also follow me on
Mm,
Facebook, Nyamburambogwa,
mhm,
on Instagram, Liz.mbogwa,
mhm,
on Twitter, Liz Mbogwa,
mhm.
and where else am I? I'm not in YouTube,
Okay.
but hope someday I can open.
Mhm.
But thank you very much. We'll be doing a lot of content,
Okay.
more so on Twitter
Mm,
and on Biblical.
mm.
And did I say I'm a Christian? Yes, I am saved, and so most of the content you'll find in my pages are
Uh,
Christian related.
okay. I will give the pages, the social handles on the description section. So the viewers will just go to the description section. Speaking of being a Christian and being saved, I did a video some time back. It's called Be My Philip. I was asking for help because, in fact, here is my Bible. It's usually at my desk. This is how I read the Bible. I didn't know tutafika part, but I usually flip. Like now, when I've flipped, I'm in the book of Isaiah. It says, "Then I said, 'For how long, Lord?' And he answered." Then I try and relate kenye nimesoma hapo to my current life. For example, if the Lord is telling the children of Israel, repent, I'm like, the Lord is telling me to repent. I start repenting. If the if the if the scripture is saying that you'll be you'll be blessed and all that, I'm like, thank you, Lord, I'm here. Your servant is waiting for blessings. I am sure my style of reading the Bible is so elementary. Kindly, this is for me and maybe for any other book reader there who is also interested in learning more the Bible. How does someone go about reading the Bible? And especially, I can't read the Bible from the Bible app. You know, with the Bible, I just flip and So with the Bible app, sasa, I can't just flip any verse. How do you go? Be my Philip.
The number one, it depends. It depends. Number one, with the season you're at with the season where you are at.
Mhm.
Number two, it depends with your consistency
Okay.
because for example, right now I'm doing the book of Samuel. I'm sure you've been viewing my status.
Yeah.
I'm doing the book of Samuel.
Okay.
For me, I do book after book,
Okay.
all the way from Genesis to where I am right now, the book of Samuel.
Uh-huh.
There's another person who is in a season where they just need hope,
Mhm.
and where they will go mostly
Mhm.
is where hope is
Oh,
more spoken. That is in the book of Psalms.
okay.
So for me, I would advise an orderly book Bible reading,
Mhm. Mhm.
so that you can grasp, because the Bible is written to other culture.
Mhm.
Now we are trying to relate it
Sure.
in our days.
Mhm.
And the mistake that happened in the current church is that we pick a verse and run with it. We
Sure.
pick a verse and run with it. For
Mhm.
example, today there's a chapter I was reading, and it
Mhm.
say, "This far Ebenezer, this far Ebenezer has helped us."
Mhm.
But if you just pick that and run away with it, you
Mhm.
won't get the content of
Mhm.
that. Before they got there, they had sinned against God, and
Oh.
God gave them a a very thorough punishment,
Okay.
up until where Samuel is telling them, you have to repent. And when they repented is when God won for them. The tables turned and God won for them the battle that they were going through at that time.
Mhm.
And so when they are coming to say, this far, the Lord has helped us, it is indeed that the Lord has helped us. But if you run away with that, you might not understand where this has come from. So for me, I don't advise a verse, picking up of a verse. Advice, if you're reading a book, read a book. If you're reading a chapter, read a whole chapter. Yes. And the Bible actually is the most interesting book I've read.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing. I will work on that. Thank you once again. So, book lover, that is Nyambura. She is a HR professional and she's a Christian, a saved Christian, and she's unapologetic about it. Yeah, and I will give her social media handles in the description section. Yeah, kindly follow follow her on her socials. So, book lover, that is it for today. Thank you very much. Remember to like, to subscribe, and to share the videos in the channel.